So you have a Bambu with an AMS unit now. You're ready to make a multicolor print. What do you actually have to do in order to get a multicolor print? That's what we want to look at. So it won't matter whether you're talking about the AMS Lite or the AMS or the AMS Pro or the AMS 2. All of those different models, they have different features to them, but the actual process for making a print is very much the same. Make sure your printer is turned on. And make sure you have your AMS unit already hooked up to your printer. So I have hooked up an AMS Lite to a Bambu A1. And this is the Bambu AMS 2 Pro on top of the Bambu H2D. And then you're ready to actually begin loading your filament. Notice on the AMS Lite that each spool is marked with a number. So the top left is spool number 1. The bottom left is spool number 2, bottom right, spool number 3, top right, spool number 4. You'll need to know those numbers when you're slicing your design later to make sure the right color goes where it should. On the other AMS units, the spools will be 1, 2, 3, 4, just left to right. So to load the filament, I'm going to take it and I'll place it on the spool. I want to make sure that the filament is coming up underneath the spool, not over the top. So you want to make the shortest route possible to get the filament up into that PFT tube. All right, so you're going to make sure that it goes from underneath the spool, not over the top, and then it needs to go into the little orange hole while you push the button on top, and then you'll feel that the printer automatically grabs the filament and loads it itself. So you don't have to push it all the way down the tube. The printer will do that for you. And now repeat this for the other colors, being sure each time that the filament takes the shortest route to the extruder and holding down that orange button while pushing in until you feel the printer grab the filament and pull it through that PFT tube. And once you have the filament loaded, you can use the screen to actually let the printer know which color is in which spot. So on the screen, I'm going to press filament. And then notice how for spool number 3, I was using a Bambu filament that is on the spool, and it automatically recognized what type of filament it was. So it has a special code on there. It knew that it was black PLA filament, and I don't even have to change that one myself. But some of the others are not Bambu filaments, so you'll want to set those up. So I'm going to press on number 1 first, and then choose Edit. Now if I press Load here, that's always a temptation, that'll actually just load the filament to the nozzle, which isn't really what I'm wanting to do here. So I'm going to click on Edit, and now I want to select what type of filament I am using. This is a Polytera filament, and it is PLA. And here I can also choose the color. This is helpful if I forget what colors I loaded when I'm using my slicing software here in a moment. So I can choose one of the colors here on the palette. If I push the arrow buttons, I can see more colors. So I'm going to go with the closest one, which is this gray color. And then I can click OK. Now I'm going to repeat this process for the other filaments. It does take it a minute to show up in the screen, so don't panic if you don't see it right away. You can see it's now there. So now I'm going to push number 2, and I'm going to edit that one. And this again is a Polytera filament, and it is a red. And then be sure and hit OK and not back. If you hit back, it will close it out and not register your selection. And then I am ready for number 3's automatic, so number 4, and I will edit that one. And this is a Poly Light filament, and it is PLA. And it is white. Okay, so I'll hit OK. And now I have all 4 filaments so that the printer knows what's what. And on the AMS or the AMS 2 Pro or any of those, the process will be very similar. You're just going to open the cover and then insert the filament spool, being sure that it is seated correctly in the slot so that it can spin. Make sure it's going over the filament spool, then press the button, insert the end of the filament into the hole, and then you'll feel the printer grab. It'll pull it backwards and forwards a few times while it's loading. And can repeat that process until you have all 4 filaments loaded, or at least as many as you want to use. You have to wait till one filament is finished loading before you can load the next. So now that you have your AMS loaded, how do you go about actually letting the printer know what colors it should print where? So we're going to look at 3 different methods that you can use. So the first one, when you're designing your own parts, you can actually save each color as a separate part. In method 2, you can actually take a single color object, put it in your slicer, and then use painting to paint on whatever colors you want to have. And in method 3, you can actually take somebody else's part that they've already designed in different colors and just figure out how to assign the right color to the right part. The first one we're going to look at is export the colors that you want to use as multiple parts. So if this is a design that you created yourself, for example, I created this bulldog logo in Tinkercad. Maybe you created yours in Tinkercad, maybe in Fusion, maybe in Onshape, any CAD program. You created your project yourself. You want to make sure that you have each color as a separate part. So for example, the gray here is a separate part, or the white is a separate part, or the black. Okay, and so each color that I'm going to be using in this file is a separate part. And then when I go to export them, I'm going to export them separately. So right now I have the black file selected. I can tell the black is selected. So I'm going to export that. I'm going to make sure to give it a title because that'll help me remember which part is which. Now I'm going to select the white part. Make sure I have the white selected, and I'm going to export the white part. Next up, I'm going to select the gray part. And finally, I'm going to select the red part. And save all of those as separate STL files. And I did this using Tinkercad. You would follow the exact same process if you were using Fusion or Onshape. Just be sure and save each color as its own part, as its own separate STL file. Now I have opened up Bambu Studio and I'm ready to import my files. So I'm going to click on the Add button, and then I'm going to choose the files that I have created. So make sure that you get all 4 of them, or however many colors you have, and be sure to select them all at one time. You can't go in and select one and then another and then another. You have to do them all at once. Okay, so then I'm going to click on Open. Now it's going to ask me if I want to load this as a single object with multiple parts, and I'm going to say yes, I do. So now I have that loaded as a single part, but my printer still isn't going to know what should be what color. It's all going to print at single color if I just slice and print right from here. So I need to let my printer know that I have multiple colors. So over here I have an option for project filaments. So right now I just have 1. I'm going to add more by clicking on this plus button. So I'll click the plus button and now I have a second one. I'll click the plus button again and I have number 3 and number 4. Now it's helpful to go in and tell it what color I want these to be. So if I click on 1 and I say I want that to be whatever was loaded on spool in the number 1 position. So for me that was a gray, so I'm going to click on that gray type color. Now I'm going to select number 2, and then I'm going to say whatever was on number 2, for me that was red, and on 3 that was black, and 4 was white. Okay, so now I've told it I have those 4 filament colors. Now I need to tell it what should be what color. So here, you might have been on global. I want to come over here and click on objects. And then I'm going to click on the little drop-down menu here. And it'll show me all 4 of those files that I imported. So I can see I had a black, a gray, a red, and a white one. Now I'm going to click on the number and then click it again. So usually it's a double click, but it's a slow click. And I'm going to choose the color that I want that to be. So I tell it I want that to be number 3. I'm going to leave that on 1. I want red to be number 2. And I want white to be number 4. So I've told it what colors I want there. This up here is your prime tower. So once you told it you have multiple colors, you'll see this prime tower come up. And that's just where the printer is going to clear the nozzle in between color changes. So you can't delete that, you have to leave it there. When it's finished printing, you'll have this little tower. You can throw it away or keep it as a souvenir, whatever you'd like to do. Now you're ready to slice the plate. So I'll click here on Slice Plate. And then you'll see what it's going to look like when it prints. If you want to see each layer, I'm going to drag it down. One thing to keep in mind when you are printing multiple colors is you want to try to use as few color changes as possible. That's why the bottom of my bulldog is black and the top is the only place where you actually see the color. Because if I'd made him multicolor all the way through, I would have needed a lot more color changes, used a lot more filament, taken a lot more time. Now, once I'm satisfied with everything, I can see here how much filament will be used. I can see how long it's going to take to print. And then I can click on Print Plate. Okay, when this menu pops up or when this box pops up, I want to choose the printer that I'm going to be using. And then it'll automatically tell me what colors are on each of the spools. So I can make sure that they all match. If they don't match, Bambu Studio will actually try to match them for you. But notice A1 is that number 1, A2 is number 2, and A3 and so forth. The reason they have the A in front of them is because it is possible to attach multiple units to your Bambu printer. Then you would have B1, B2, B3. So if you wanted to have like 12 or 16 colors, you could keep going with those letters. But generally, I don't use more than 4. It takes too long. And now I'll click on Send, and it will begin printing. Now, method 1 works great as long as it is a project that you created yourself and that you saved all the colors as separate parts. But this can be very difficult if all you have is an STL file, either one that you created yourself that you didn't save the colors separately, or one that you found that somebody else created. So here I found a bulldog that someone else created. Thank you, Alexander. And I'm going to download that and bring that into Bambu Studio. So with Bambu Studio open, I'm going to click on Add, and I'm going to choose the one file that I have, which is the STL file for the bulldog. I'm going to make him a little bit smaller so that he doesn't take quite so long to print. So I'm going to actually make him about half size. Okay, now I have this file, but he's all one color. How do I make him multiple colors? So just like we did with method 1, I want to define what colors I want to use. I still have 4 from the last method that we used. If you don't, you can click on the plus button to put as many different filament colors over there that you need. And I'm going to now change the colors because I changed out the colors on my machine. So I'm going to, the number 1 now has, what did I put? White on there. And number 2 has brown. Number 3 has pink. And number 4 has black. Okay, so now I have those 4 filament colors. It knows that it has them, but I don't have different parts this time, so I can't just tell it make this part that color. So what I can do instead is use the paint tool. So I'm going to click on the bulldog, make sure it's selected, and then I'm going to click on the color painting option here, the paint bucket. And notice here it has all of my filament colors. Now number 1 is going to be the base color, so being the number 1 color, white, which is what I want. And now I want to choose what I want to be a different color. So for example, I can choose 4 as the black to be his eyes. Now here I get to choose my tool type. Now a very useful tool type is the fill. It looks like the paint bucket. And here I can do connected same color, but that would only be if I had different colors. So now I want to use edge detection. So use the edge detection tool, and then it can detect where different edges are. So I can see right now it's selecting the eye. So I can click on the eye and it'll automatically select it and turn it black. Now if it's selecting too much or too little, you can adjust the Smart Fill angle up or down to make it try to select only what it is that you want to select. I'll click on the other eye and make it black as well. Now I'm going to make the nose pink. So I'm going to click on the pink. And if I hover over the nose, you can see the whole bulldog turns pink. So that's not what I want. So I'm going to hit Control Z to go back. And I'm going to redefine the Smart Fill angle. And we'll make it less. And let's try about 9. And you can see if I zoom in there, I'm getting pretty close to the whole nose, but I still have some edges there. Well, I can continue using the fill tool and just fill in these additional triangle areas here to make sure that I get everything pink that I want to be pink. And once I have everything correctly done, I can now try another tool. So now we have a black eyes and pink nose, and now let's use brown, number 2, and let's make some little dots, some little spots on our bulldog. So I could use the fill tool, but that's going to fill in most of the bulldog. So a better tool here will be either the sphere or the circle. I'm going to choose the sphere. They both work very similarly. I can choose my pen size, so I can see what the current pen size is if I want to make a big blotch. Okay, and I can choose whatever pen size that I want to use. And I'm just going to draw some spots on my dog here. And then it'll add those to the bulldog, so I can put those wherever I want. Okay, and maybe one on his face. Okay, so now I have a spotted bulldog. If you're ever unhappy and you want to start over, you can always click on Erase All Painting and start completely from scratch. So once you are satisfied with your painting though, you can click on the color painting button and it will take you back to the mode. You'll see your prime tower now from where your different colors will need to purge in between. And now you will want to check, make sure you have the right printer selected. I'm going to be using the H2D. And my particular project will need supports because he has some overhanging ears and an overhanging belly there. So I'm going to enable the support. I'll leave it on tree supports. And now I can click here on Slice Plate. Since I am using the H2D this time, it gives me some additional options when I hover over there because it is a dual extruder. I can use filament saving mode if I want it to be use the filament most wisely, which is a good idea, except I've already loaded my filaments, so I'm going to use convenience mode here, and it'll base the color groupings based on how they're loaded into the AMS already. So I'll use convenient mode and then I'll click on Slice Plate. Okay, and notice it recognizes where those filaments all are on the right nozzle, and now I can choose to print the plate. Okay, and notice it has them lined up there correctly. So if I needed to change those though, I could if they weren't lined up grouped correctly. And now I'm ready to send it off. Okay, I can see this one's going to take significantly longer to print because it does have lots of color changes every single layer. And here in my slicing result, you can see that I have 86 grams of purged filament as well as the 13 grams of the tower. My model itself is only about 10 grams. So multicolor printing does use a lot more filament than single color printing, especially if you're not careful the way I wasn't here when making that design. So I'm going to go ahead and send that off. And so finally, a third method that I can use for getting colors is to find somebody that's already created the colors for me. So if I'm in Bambu Studio and I go on the home icon here, I'll see this option for online models. So here people have uploaded models that they have created, and they oftentimes already include the color scheme. So if I click on Bulldog, I'm going to use this English Bulldog keychain. He looks pretty similar to the last Bulldog that I had. And now I'm going to look at it, read it, and it might say, look, okay, this is multicolor or single color printing, so it tells me that I do have both options. Now I can click on Download and Open. Okay, and I can see here that I actually have two plates. I have the one with the single color Bulldog, and then I have the other one here with the multicolor Bulldog. I want the multicolor, so I'm going to right-click this plate and say Delete Plate. And now I just have this over here, and then I have still him hanging out, so I'll click on him and hit Delete. Okay, and now I have these two Bulldogs. I can actually choose whichever one I like best. I'm going to go with the one here on the right. So I'm going to delete this one, and now I just have this guy here. He does have an optional keychain here. I don't want that, so I'm going to click and delete that. And now I can look at him, and I can see that they have different colors already assigned here. I don't have that many colors set up on my machine, so I'm going to delete the ones I don't need. So I'll click on the three dots there and click on Delete, and use the modified value is fine. And I'm going to get rid of this dark brown because I don't see that one anywhere either. Okay, and now I'm left with the 4 colors that I can actually put on the printer. I probably actually only need the 3. I can check my purge tower here and see I really only need 3 colors. So we'll delete that one as well. And depending on your project, you may not have needed to delete any colors here. You may even want to change some. So if you didn't like black, maybe you want to use blue eyes. If you don't like it, you can always change it back. And once you're happy with it, you are ready to make sure if you need supports, turn it on. This one has it on there. And I'm going to select the printer I'm going to be using. I'll use the P2S for this one. And now I want to click here on Slice the Plate. Okay, so it added my supports on there. And again, I can see the model itself is only 5 grams. Okay, but it took like 80 grams in order to make all of those color changes, since there is at least brown and white in almost every layer. Now I can choose Print the Plate, and I'm going to be using the P2S, and it has those colors loaded correctly. So notice how this time I didn't choose my colors over here. They were already assigned based on the whoever created this. But my printer, since I had edited my filament colors and told them what color was at each spot, it found the closest color to that and automatically assigned it. Okay, and so now I'm ready to send that on and start that print. And here is project number 1, all finished, as well as the filament waste that it produced, affectionately known as bamboo poop. Here is project number 2 and the filament waste that it produced. And here's project 3 and the filament waste it produced. So you will notice that even these relatively small projects produce a lot of filament waste. So that's an important thing to consider when you are multicolor printing. It is inevitable in multicolor printing that there will be some waste like that, but there are a lot of things you can do to make it less. So first of all, make sure that if you have a dual extruder, like I had on my H2D, that you do use filament saving mode instead of the convenience mode. It may mean you have to rearrange your filaments, but it will save you a lot of filament. Also, try to use as few color changes as possible. So in my project that I designed myself, I made sure that the bottom layers were all black, and so it only had to make those color changes on the top layers, whereas the bulldogs had to change colors pretty much every layer. And then finally, if you need multiple of something, put them all on the same plate. So I could have printed 25 of these bulldogs, or as many would fit in on that plate, and it would have used the exact same filament waste as it did to print 1. So if you need multiples, print them all at the same time, and that will help avoid a lot of waste.